This is what we're seeing for the fourth quarter, right? So what are we expecting in terms of 2021 for South Korea?
Yeah, so today's number is better than expected. It looks like the economy was more resilient. We had expected a weakening in the recovery momentum, given that the country experienced a third virus wave starting last November that surpassed the earlier two waves, both in terms of the daily infection numbers and the associated social distancing restrictions. So the fact that the economy actually ended the year on a stronger note sets it up better for 2021. Of course, there are still risks this year, but in many ways, South Korea's economy looks like it is in a good position for a recovery over the course of the year, helped by both a favorable export structure and also a vaccination campaign that seeks to achieve herd immunity by November this year.
Krystal, South Korean bond yields rose yesterday on that report that we might see cash handouts again from the government, not to mention some support for businesses. How much does the South Korean economy need another round of payments? And also, can they afford it? How much leeway do they have when it comes to more fiscal measures?
Well, the thing is, the growth uncertainties at this stage are still very elevated, even though virus cases in Korea now have fallen from the December peak levels. They are still hovering around the 400 level or so, and the persistent risk of a fresh outbreak is always there. So until these COVID-related risks are convincingly off the table, we will probably need to see continued policy support in order to minimize corporate and labor market stress. So in the case of South Korea, it ended the pandemic with pretty strong fiscal balances, so that has set it up quite well. And I think that given South Korea's solid external position and also the fact that a monetary policy in the G2 economies are still going to remain accommodative, that does give South Korea room to continue running outsized budget deficits over the next couple of years without causing a major macroeconomic instability.
How will a stronger Korean won factor in here, especially as they're so dependent on exports and those semiconductor shipments as well?
So the good thing for Korea is when it comes to the export sector, they're not particularly price sensitive because they're kind of higher up in the value chain, so their products are more differentiated. They don't compete just on price. And when it comes to the semiconductor sector in particular, I think there are reasons to be reasonably optimistic about the outlook still, because the current upcycle, it was boosted by demand for digital solutions to overcome pandemic-related disruptions with the whole work-from-home phenomena. And this upcycle should continue to be fortified by the rollout in 5G and Wi-Fi 6 networks worldwide. If we look at the Semiconductor Industry Association expectations, we do see global semiconductor sales rising by another 8% this year, following an estimated 5% last year. So this bodes well for South Korea's economy. Semiconductors do account for roughly about 20% of exports.
Krystal, when it comes to the vaccine, we see many countries around the world really in the middle of their rollouts. Korea, though, much like here in Australia, is playing more of a longer waiting game. Is there risks to this that potentially we don't see the start of vaccinations until the second quarter?
Yeah, I think a lot of it also depends on whether vaccine supplies arrive on schedule. And so that's the key. And also the fact that I think we need to wait for the local health authorities to actually approve the use of specific vaccines before that can kick off. But otherwise, if things actually go according to the South Korean government's plans, South Korea is actually in a pretty good position relative to most of its Asian peers in terms of being able to achieve herd immunity this year. So we are going to be watching how the vaccination progress tracks alongside the government's plan, because if it works out, we're going to see them. I think the plan is for 70% vaccination by September, herd immunity by November, and that would be an important factor to help shore up domestic demand in South Korea, which has been the kind of like the missing piece of the puzzle to its recovery so far.